It'd be cliche of me to start off by saying that I didn't want to make this video because honestly, I didn't. I've known about the news for about 3 days at this point, and there were many moments where I felt as though I wanted to voice an opinion on this, but I was like, what does it matter? What does it really matter? No one's really going to hear what I have to say, nor is I think there's going to be a real honest discussion about what's being done right now. But once again, as always, I watch a Grace Randolph video, and I just felt inclined to have to say something now. Because the rhetoric that she's spewing is exactly how we ended up in this situation to begin with. Hey guys, the Black Critic Guy. You read the title, you saw the thumbnail if there is one. We're talking about, of course, Netflix buying Warner Brothers and how this has caused a shit show in the industry. Everybody's panicking, everybody's screaming the death of cinema, and everyone's in a big frenzy and panic about it all. When honestly, this was bound to happen. It was. This is where the trend was going for the longest time. And Hollywood just ignored it, didn't address it, didn't see it as a big deal, didn't want to do anything about it, or even to compete with it. Because here's the one thing I want to say. The one thing I really want to say. Hollywood, this is your fault. It's your fault that you're in this situation. This whole crying about the death of cinema is a self-inflicted wound. It's a self-inflicted death. The reason I say that is because for years, decades, quarter of a century, people have been complaining about the movie-going experience and how it has been cheapened and lessened and treated terribly over time. I was listening to Grace Randolph doing her movie math today, talking about how the reason why Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is like the savior for theaters is because it's all about the human connection. Excuse me. You can still have human connection. In fact, it's a ludicrous statement to make because there have been many people that have human connections watching TV shows. Hell, Stranger Things, which just came out, I think a week ago at this point, or 2 weeks ago, is a good example of that human connection. There are watch parties and there are gatherings with people that you actually give a damn what their opinions are about the show, about the thing that you're watching. The problem with movie theaters and why they're dying, and Red Letter Media has made videos about this, and they're right, is that the movie-going experience is shit. You go into a movie theater, and there are rude people everywhere. People talking during the movie, people texting during the movies, kids running up and down the aisles, and their parents doing nothing about it. Mess all over the floor. Poorly kept screens, poorly kept audio, poorly kept chairs. Why would anybody spend nearly $50 a weekend to have such a mediocre experience and also to watch what could be a mediocre film? I'll share you two instances. The first is when I went to go watch Weapons, and the second is when I went to watch Zootopia 2. Yes, I saw Zootopia 2. I might do a video about it. I don't know. But overall, love Zootopia 2. I think it is one of the best movies of the year. If you have not seen it, go see it. Anyway, let's start with my viewing of Weapons. I was super stoked to watch Weapons. When I first saw the trailers, I was so curious. My interest was piqued. I'm like, I need to watch this movie. I watched it opening day. I went there at night actually, but opening day with my girlfriend. I was excited. I couldn't wait to watch it. And the moment I walked into that movie theater, up on the top, the way top, 3 teenagers, 2 of which were on their phones. Bright! Not like they dimmed it or, been at least decent enough not to be on their phones. No, straight out bright on their laps for a majority of the movie. Thank goodness they weren't sitting next to me. At least they had the decency to sit all the way at the top. But even so, what the fuck are you going to a movie theater if you're going to be on your phone? Why would you waste money like that? And why would you ruin other people's experience by being on the phone? But you know the funny thing is, they weren't even the worst part about my experience watching Weapons. The worst part of my experience is that there was this old fucking guy sitting about 3 chairs in front of us. And every time something terrifying happened or there was a moment of suspense, he'd start laughing. And I'm not talking like a chuckle, no, he laughed out loud ha 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 ha. Constantly taking me out of the experience, breaking my immersion into the experience of this horror film that actually was intriguing me. But I couldn't be fully invested because I knew at some point in the movie, this guy's going to start laughing at a moment that's not meant to be funny. And it got so bad, I'm not even kidding. I had to tell him to stop laughing. I said, "Excuse me, can you please stop laughing? This scene is not meant to be funny. Stop laughing." I said that out loud. And my girlfriend was really upset because she didn't want me to antagonize him. But the thing is, he was being rude to begin with. Laughing in moments that aren't meant to be funny. It's a horror movie, goddammit. Be respectful to the audience that's also watching the movie. And you know what's worse? He just turns to me sometime near the 3rd act and says, "I'm gonna laugh at this part because I think it's funny, okay? I'm gonna laugh now." He willfully chose to disregard my respectful pleads for him not to laugh. I didn't yell at him. I didn't scold him. I asked him nicely. I said, "Please stop laughing. This scene is not funny." That's it. All I asked was that he doesn't laugh. And he couldn't even do that. My second experience, when I went to go watch Zootopia 2. It wasn't a bad one. It was fine, but there was barely anybody in the theater. Honestly, those are the best times for me to watch movies, is when there's barely anybody in there, so it's not ruined for me. But what shocked me was, when we went to go watch the movie, it cost us about $25 to $26 to watch the movie. And then another $25 just for snacks and stuff. That's $50. And that was just for 2 people. 2. Imagine if you have kids. Imagine if you go with friends and you're spotting friends. You could spend upwards of $150 to $200 at the movie theaters for one family outing every weekend. That is not sustainable for any family in this current economy. Why would they do that? Now, I get that Regal now has these membership programs where you can watch unlimited movies for I think $17.99, which is a good idea, yeah. But why would most families do that? Most families don't go to the movies that often. They have to be very selective with their movies. So, what does this whole thing deal with the Netflix WB merger? I'm sorry to tell you guys, but the things that Ted Sarandon, I don't know how to say his name. Let's just call him Ted S. The things that he's saying, I'm not going to lie. Most people have been saying that for years. Most people have been thinking it for years. Now, remember, I am the Black Critic Guy. I love movies. And to a certain degree, I love watching movies in the movie theater. I like big screens. I like loud noise. I like being immersed into the scene. But I'm going to share with you something that I have never told you in my, how many years have I been on YouTube now? 16? In my 16 years of being on YouTube, I purposefully watched the first showing of every movie that I ever reviewed when I was reviewing movies religiously back in the days, because I wanted to avoid big audiences. I wanted to avoid big audiences. You know why I wanted to avoid big audiences? Because I didn't want to have to deal with rude people in the theater. I didn't want to have to deal with assholes ruining the movie experience for me when I'm trying to be immersed in it. Because without fail, at least 1, 2, or 3 times throughout the year, I would go to a movie where there was a big crowd and there is somebody ruining the experience. And I'm just sitting there like, this sucks. I want to enjoy this movie, but there are like 5 different people that are ruining this experience for me. And yes, that can also affect the way that you see movies. Because if someone ruins the experience, why would you end up liking that movie? Why? They don't appreciate it. They're not there to actually be a part of the movie experience. You know, I was so afraid to watch the first Quiet Place because I was afraid that the audience with me would be talking throughout. And that movie requires complete silence for you to truly enjoy it. I feel bad for anyone that did watch A Quiet Place and there are people like, man, what's going on? Oh, that's crazy. Oh, hey, I got tickets. During the movie. Immersion destroyed right there. Immersion destroyed. Whereas if we go with this new merger, what's happening now, and his idea of like people wanting to watch at the comfort of their homes, guess what? He's not wrong. Most people, if given the choice, movies or watching at home, this is the choice, guys. I'm not going to lie. Most people would choose this. And they would be right to choose it. Because at least at home, nobody but yourself and your family can ruin the movie-going experience. When you're here, you're at the behest of the audience. You're at the mercy of whether or not they're going to follow the social contract of let's watch this movie together and be pleasant and respectful to one another. And literally 65% of the time, they're not that. Do you remember that one incident? I don't know if it was in 2015 or 16, where a guy was watching a movie with, I think, his wife. They were watching Trainwrecked, that movie with Amy Schumer. And this other guy was on his phone the whole time, and he asked him to stop being on his phone. And what does he do in response? He shoots him dead in front of his significant other. Why would anybody want to risk their life to watch a movie? And again, that's like a 1 in a billion chance encounter. But you know, one thing that happens to me a lot, and I see this with my girlfriend and my mom, and this kind of ties into what I'm talking about. Whenever I show a little bit of pushback, when I show my frustration towards someone acting up, they always say, hey, don't antagonize them. Don't do anything because you never know what they could do. That's what they think. That's what they think. That's why my girlfriend was upset while I said something while we were watching Weapons, because she was afraid that that guy would do something that would hurt us or hurt her or hurt both of us. And that type of fear, to live in fear of other people's reactions when you're asking them kindly to stop doing something, I don't want to live in a world like that. I don't want to live in a world where I cannot express my frustration because you can't be a decent human being right now. Because of fear of retaliation or fear of that guy might be insane. I shouldn't say anything. I don't want to live in a world like that. I'm sorry. I'm going on so many different rants here. But really, this is all Hollywood's fault when it comes to this merger. If you truly cared about movies, if you truly cared about the movie-going experience, you guys would have done something a very long time ago. You would have fixed the movie-going experience. You would make it something that would drive audiences to go watch movies. You would make your experience much more thrilling, much more exciting. You would do more. Instead, you guys sat on your asses and rested on your laurels and your prestige as being movie theaters and thought that was just enough. And then the pandemic hit. And then the reality set in that, wow, we might be obsolete. Like soon. Not like in 50 to 60, like soon. And that's always been the mentality. We always wait when things get out of control and it's almost irreversible to actually act. Only now is Hollywood trying to act about this whole merger. They're reaching out to politicians about saying this goes against antitrust laws. You guys got to break this monopoly. You should have done this a long time ago. You should have saw the writings on the wall, especially once Disney created Disney Plus. That's the moment where you guys should have been like, you know what? This is becoming a problem now, and I think we should address it before this gets out of hand. Like, here's my other thing. Why is this such a big deal? Why is this Netflix buying Warner Brothers? Why is this a bigger deal than when Disney purchased 20th Century Fox? What? Because Disney? You know what I think it is? It's because Disney is one of them. Disney is one of them. The old guard. The old guard. And when one old guard buys another old guard, not a big deal. But because Netflix is the new guard, it's the new trailblazer in this marketplace and is kind of like the media juggernaut that it is, now it's a problem. And doesn't this just scream like the old guard being afraid of the new guard taking over? That's what it screams like to me, because here's the thing. Could Netflix still release movies in theaters? Yes, and I think they will. But they'll be more limited about the releases, which, guess what, would make them more special. It would make the movie-going experience more special, more targeted, more respected. Because now it's not just like whenever you want, go see the movie. Now there's a limited window for you to actually see it. And I think that's interesting. And that would actually make people who actually give a damn about watching movies more enticed to go see a movie in theaters instead of just the casual audience constantly going there and ruining it for cinephiles everywhere. I think the option of providing it in both movie theaters and digital is actually a good one. Because the people that actually care about the medium of filmmaking would go to the theater while everybody else can stay at home and where they rightfully belong. Not everybody deserves the movie-going experience because not everybody appreciates or respects it. Let's be honest. Not everybody deserves it. It's true. So I see no problem with Netflix buying Warner Brothers. In fact, I would love to see what they do with it, honestly. I think they could actually revitalize Warner Brothers as a studio and make them do something interesting. Maybe they can actually market it to where they have these big theatrical events that would actually drive people to go watch it at the movie theater. Which is that I see potential here, whereas everyone sees disaster. Everybody sees calamity. Everybody sees the end of movies as we know it, which is not even the case. All Ted Sarandos said was that most people would prefer watching things at home. And he's not wrong. But I think he's smart enough and savvy enough as a businessman to know there are still those that want the movie-going experience. And you know what? He'll cater to them. I have no doubt. This guy wants to make money. He's going to make baffled business if he caters to that audience that wants the big screen experience, the silver screen experience. And here's the thing. I don't know why the Directors Guild of America is scared. You'd have more freedom to make the film you want to make if you did it with Netflix than if you were to do it in a studio system where the studio wants to control everything. The studio wants to control how you make the film. Wouldn't this be more favorable to directors and writers too, where they go with this new system that gives them more creative control. And as for actors and actresses, if you make a good relationship with Netflix with a movie, I know for a fact they'll put you in other media, they'll put you in other IPs. There was a time I remember in the early days of Netflix where I used to see like the same actor in almost like every other TV show or Netflix original. And I'm like, that's interesting, but it makes sense because they probably reached out to those people again, like, hey, you were in this show, you want to be in this show? Hey, you were in this show, you want to be in this show? I don't see the problem here. You're all afraid that movie theaters are going the way of the dinosaur, yet you did nothing to stop it. But worst of all, you don't even see the potential. By the way, I just realized I said going the way of the dinosaur, and I didn't do that on purpose. I literally just recognized that now. You did nothing to stop this. And what could you have done? What this feels like is people scared of change. That's it. You're all afraid of what Netflix is about to do. Because you can't read the tea leaves no more. It's not predictable like it used to be. It's different now. Well, guess what? Thus is change. It's unpredictable. You're not going to see it coming. And you don't know if it's going to be for the better or for the worse. That's what change is. And it's unavoidable. Sure, you could stop this deal now. You could get those antitrust laws to destroy and dismantle this deal. But it's going to come back again. This isn't the end. You don't think Apple would think to buy somebody in the near future with the money that they got? They would. Shit. Disney bought Hulu. What makes you think one of these streaming services won't consider buying a big-time studio? Netflix just had the money, the gravitas, and the connections to do so now. And I think it's fine. In fact, I embrace it. Because, let's be real, Warner Brothers, you've made some good movies in a couple of years, but you guys have grown stale. The industry as a whole has grown stale to where people like Grace Randolph is praising Five Nights at Freddy's 2, a legitimately bad movie, as a savior for cinema. Let that sink in. Five Nights at Freddy's 2, a movie with a bad script, terrible acting, weak-ass plot that makes no sense, and limited direction, is considered the savior of cinema? Huh? Movies like Five Nights at Freddy's 2 honestly should go straight to Netflix. I'm not gonna lie. Movies like that should go straight to Netflix. I think high quality movies should be played in the movie theaters. That has always been my honest opinion. That high quality movies should go to the movie theater. And I get that that's subjective to most people, but I personally believe that's the case. Movies like Zootopia 2 should be in the movie theater. Quality movies. As much as I don't like the Avatar films, they are quality movies. Deserving of being in the silver screen. Superhero movies. Yeah, you could say many of them are dime a dozen, but to me, there's some quality to them that can be put on the big screen. And lesser superhero movies should put on digital. You know, instead of watching a Captain Marvel, put that in digital. But let's watch something like Thor. Anyway. I don't feel bad for you, Hollywood. I don't. And the only reason I do feel bad for you is because you how pathetic you look right now. You all look really pathetic. You all look sad. Because when you could have made changes, you did nothing. You did nothing. And now that change has finally come, now you're pushing against it. You're denying it. You're tucking your tails between your legs and being like, no, scary change. This is going to ruin everything. No, you did. You ruined everything. You made it to a point where going to the movies is just a risk a lot of people don't want to take. You made it so that going to the movies was not cost effective. You made it going to the movies as a terrible experience. Not worthy of the money that you spend to go watch a movie. You could have addressed it a long time ago. This could have been fixed. But you twiddled your thumbs and you did nothing. And now when someone comes in with a solution of how to solve some of this issue, now you have a problem. Now you don't want to listen. Now it's like, whoa, what's going on here? Movies weren't that bad. The movie going experience isn't that bad, am I right? Come on, let's be real. No. And look, I love people like Christopher Nolan and Steven Spielberg and Tom Cruise all fighting for keeping the movie-going experience alive, and through their quality filmmaking, they have done so. But honestly, just the one critique I'll have on them, I just wish that they would push the studios, push movie theater change to making those changes as well, making the experiences better. You guys had enough influence to push for those types of changes, to make sure that the movie-going experience was a respected one, an enjoyable one where we all share in the experience of what we're watching, instead of constantly being at each other's throats, where one group of people respect the experience, the other people don't. You guys had the influence. You could have done something at any point. And yes, you made quality movies. You made enjoyable, fun, entertaining, engaging, thought-provoking movies. But it doesn't matter if the message is strong, if the message is being sent through a boom mic or through one of those air horns, or not air horns, but you know what I'm talking about. I'd rather hear the message through a clear speaker than to be projected across the street. Hey, this is the message. That's what it's like when we watch one of your movies in one of these movie theaters. Sometimes it could be clear and great. The experience is great. But other times, it's like you're watching a movie through a McDonald's drive-thru, and that's what the audio sounds like. Yeah. Those are my unhinged thoughts about this whole thing. I apologize if it was all over the place, but I had a lot to say. I spent nearly 30 minutes talking about it. Hopefully you guys gained something out of it. I just thought I'd just let it all out. I personally am okay with this merger. I'm curious to see what Netflix can do with all these properties now and how they can advance the medium. Because films aren't dead, guys. You may think they're dead, but they're not. It only dies when people stop caring about movies. And I don't think that day is coming anytime soon. I say embrace the change. Embrace it and try to find some caveat to it, even if you're against it. Because it's going to happen. Whether you like it or not, it's coming. It's coming. Those are my thoughts. I'd love to know what you guys thought about my ramble. How do you feel about Netflix buying Warner Brothers? Were you on board with it, or do you hate it too? Comment below and let me know. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys soon in the next video. Till then, if you'd like some more videos of this channel, be part of the Black Critic Crew, please hit that subscribe button below. Like this video if you really enjoyed it. I'm Tony Watt II. Forever a fan of movies, no matter where they're shown, as the Black Critic Guy. Till then, peace, you two.